Bonjour, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to what has optimistically been billed as a super panel. This is it, on how some of the world's leading brands create their own content to engage and delight consumers. My name's Adrian Barrick, I'm Global Brand Director of Campaign. This is a hell of a challenge, as Adam Harter was just explaining for those of you that were in the previous session, because everyone from teenage vloggers to global media networks and social media behemoths masquerading as technology platforms, everyone is creating content. It's an almighty battle for attention. In many ways, though, brands have very little choice because advertising is in such trouble. Apple is rolling out ad blockers for 800 million users. The popularity of the skip ad function on YouTube is growing. And a study recently found that 89% of the ads in the UK, 89%, on which £18 million was spent, weren't noticed at all. Meanwhile, alternatives are gaining traction. Channels like YouTube Red, the ad-free paid-for service, is expanding around the world. Product placement is growing, up 13% in the US alone in 2015. But there is another option, and that is to engage consumers by entertaining them. Who knew? Some would argue that the 2014 Lego movie was the best ad ever made, and it grossed $468 million in ticket sales alone. I'm delighted to say that joining me today are three leaders in the field who put entertaining content at the heart of their marketing strategy. First, to my left, we have Lou Arbetter, who is GM of PepsiCo's new Creators League studio, which is a global creative hub for all branded content from films to music, social content, and VR. Lou's breakthrough content includes the hugely successful halftime Super Bowl show, the groundbreaking PepsiCo integration with Fox's hit Empire, which you've just heard about if you listen to Adam Harter, the video hit Uncle Drew, and digital series starring Kyrie Irving and Jeff Gordon. This creative work has been recognized through numerous awards at Cannes Lion, the Clios, and the Addies, and of course now PepsiCo has been named MIPTV's 2017 Brand of the Year. We've got Valeriya Tsygankova, who is a project manager at Wargaming, an award-winning online gaming developer and publisher. Valeriya has more than 9 years' experience in the game development industry and has risen through the ranks from content manager to senior business analyst. She currently leads a number of projects connecting with users and promoting the values of the business on some of Wargaming's biggest franchises, such as World of Tanks and World of Warships. The current focus includes using documentaries to inspire young people about military technology and world history, and as with Lou. And finally, on my far left is David Beebe, a producer and former VP of Global Creative and Content Marketing at Marriott International. David is an acclaimed global creative and content marketing leader who's won 2 Emmys for his work and was named Branded Content Master by Adweek. At Marriott, he headed the branded content agency Marriott Content Studio and M Live, which is responsible for real-time marketing. David's work at Marriott was recognized by winning the 2015 MIPTV Award for Brand of the Year. So we've got 2 MIPTV Brand of the Year winners on the panel with us this afternoon. So that's our panel, and moving on to questions really about how our brands actually approach the creation of content. I guess the first thing I want to ask, and it's hopefully without mentioning the C word, is how your branded content fits into your overall marketing strategy. And just starting with you, Lou, obviously we've heard a lot about Pepsi this morning, those that stayed with us. How does it all hang together in terms of the overall marketing of Pepsi?
At our company, the brand teams always love to push the envelope and love to get into whatever is new. They want to be the first. So we've actually had some brand teams come to us and say, all right, I want 3 feature-length films right out of the gate. I don't even want to do any TV anymore, and you have to kind of pump the brakes and get them to understand that you can't turn it all the way up to 11. There's still some basic blocking and tackling, so it is part of the mix.
Right.
But we're realizing that the right type of content, you often can create lots of content for social and even television.
Yes.
So we actually kind of go upstream quite a bit into their strategy and the story that they want to tell, which is a little different that some of our brands are very used to, what is the summer season story that I want to tell. For effective entertainment, for this type of content, they really need a larger story. And once we help them identify that, then you can start to really understand where a long form might fit, where social plays a role, if television is needed, where it plays a role. So it's really kind of helping them craft a larger story together.
I've got it. I mean, it sounds complex, but the way you describe it sounds very, very clear. Valeriya, just for the benefit of those that perhaps don't know wargaming, how important to wargame is that process of educating potential users of all ages about military history? How does that get them hooked on the games?
Yes. We use our documentaries firstly for educational, because when you start the game, it's very easy to start, but hard to master. Our game is not about elf or dwarves or something that isn't exist in real life. Our game is about the military vehicles. So to succeed in the game, you need to understand how to fight, what strategy to take, how the armor works, how the main caliber fights, and so on. So we show it in our documentaries, comparing in the real history how it was done. You can make some parallels for you to use these knowledges in the game. And the history lover are more succeed in our games, like usual.
Got it. Okay. Now, to turn to you, David, just talking about your work at Marriott. I mean, I think you said in an interview a while ago on Contently that Marriott is a media company now. I mean, what do you mean by that, and how does that mean that how does it work for the branded content to fit within the overall marketing strategy?
Well, I think Marriott and the portfolio of 30 brands within, it's a very experiential brand, right? That people really have a personal connection with because they're staying with us. I'd make a joke before that we have a very intimate relationship with our customers because they do sleep with us.
Yeah.
After all. But it goes back to sort of the why of the content studio and why we launched it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Was really the understanding of how technology has changed the way that brands and consumers interact with each other.
Yeah.
And I believe that Marriott and really a lot of brands have that opportunity to create content that's entertaining, that's informing, that's solving problems. Ultimately, in our space, we wanted to own travel.
Yeah.
Right. So all of our content should do those things, but it should really ultimately inspire someone to travel.
Yeah.
Once they're in our ecosystem, say, oh, by the way, we also sell hotel rooms. Don't you want to stay with us?
Yes.
So it's flipping that on its head, where it's very that we must provide value to them first.
Yes.
Right. And I think as all the brands that are jumping into content are starting to realize that you can do that. It's really about stop interrupting what consumers are interested in and become what they're interested in. And entertainment and content's a great way to do that, and then ultimately build loyalty as well.
That's an interesting point. I wanted to pick up on that because I guess one of the big challenges as a brand is establishing trust and authenticity. How do you go about doing that, given that there are a lot of cynical people out there who think, oh yeah, but you're a brand, you're just pushing a message, this is glorified advertising. How do you get across the idea that actually we're for real, we are here to entertain you and what we're doing is authentic?
Yeah, we talked about that quite a bit. We're blessed in the PepsiCo portfolio with a lot of brands who do have equity in certain spaces. So you take our Gatorade brand, they have spent their lives building equity in sports nutrition. Yeah. And if you start there, already consumers kind of are willing to listen to what you have to say, and you stick to those stories. So we just did a series of documentaries from what we called Win From Within Productions, which was about stories about people reaching inside of themselves to succeed.
Yes.
Very compelling stories, and the brand had every right to talk about it. So there was that trust there. When some brands come to us and they want to go into a space that, they have to earn first. You can't just kind of just do it out of the gate. Yeah. You have to counsel them on how you might want to grow that trust with consumers. But it's an important question.
I guess, Valeriya, for you, it's about the history being real, isn't it? And actually you're going to have historians looking at this stuff, right? So you've got to get it right. Is that the pressure in terms of establishing that trust with the audience? Yeah. Okay. David, what about from your experiences? I mean, I think a lot of your films are essentially travel films, as you were alluding to. How do you get across the idea that they're for real and they're not really about encouraging people just to stay in hotels? What's the trick that makes that work?
I think with the high-touch films, the scripted films that we did, anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, our strategy was really to move away from what really traditional marketing, which is really selling features and benefits, and use storytelling to showcase features and benefits of the hotel without actually saying it. Right?
Yeah.
So you see the beautiful pool, you see the rooms and the food and beverage experience. So we shot half the film in the hotel and half in the city. So the idea was that the hotel was a character. We never integrated into any existing creative, by the way. Everything was developed in-house.
Yeah.
And that moved it away from being an integration where it was just, the brand was just there and authentic to the story. And then when people saw in the city, the idea was to inspire them to travel.
Yeah.
Right, so we did a lot of, besides the views and engagement and people what are saying, so we were able to sort of check the box on traditional marketing stuff and changing perception of the brand, do brand recall, but we also created sales packages around all of our content.
Right.
So example, French Kiss, a short film we shot in Paris about 2 years ago. It was a love story with a business traveler. We created the French Kiss sales package. That package did, in 2 months, $500,000 of revenue for the hotel.
Yeah.
The idea there was that you got a great rate, you met the GM, you would get a private tour of everywhere we shot, which was like the Eiffel Tower, like all those places. And it was just really creating a custom experience around things. So then we're actually able to showcase, now our films are actually bringing money back in, right? So we're covering the cost of them. And then to your point, we said a media company, because we produce it in a way where the story is, where the brand is just part of it, a lot of other distributors don't view it as branded content. Right. So now those films are going on to be licensed to other distributors as original content. It just happens to come from a brand.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, but you've had to work to get to that point, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that obviously that's shaping out all our worlds right now is technology, and I mean Adam in his talk about PepsiCo alluded to just the myriad of platforms that you have to work on. How is that changing the way you're thinking about content, how you create it, how you distribute it? But we're already seeing everyone from Sony to Microsoft, Google, Facebook investing billions in VR headsets and so on. I mean, what's the big shift that's happening there for you right now, Lou?
I mean, it's, I'm sure everybody here is very excited about what technology offers to help tell more compelling, more emotional stories.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do more of is build the content from the ground up for certain tech platforms.
Yes.
Instead of taking existing stuff and just throwing it on. VR is very interesting. I think increasingly we're spending a ton of time in AR as we feel there's a lot of opportunity in the augmented reality space.
Yeah.
But even existing platforms like Facebook 360 and things like that, we're building content just for that. And so if it's not even the newest and hottest thing, I don't even think some of the existing technology has been really fully realized in how it can tell a story. So some of the stuff we're doing in that platform is going to be pretty amazing.
And in his talk earlier as well, Adam was alluding to the way that the new series of Empire will be done mobile first. And that must be a big game changer for you.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm sure everybody kind of gets this a lot. Everybody says certain things. They know in their brief, like I want this, whatever I'm asking for, I want it to be mobile first.
Yeah.
And, it has to be...
So that's actually happening now after years of talking about it. It's for real.
There's a difference between writing it in a brief and actually having the understanding to bring it to life effectively. Right? I think some of the work that we're doing with Empire does a great job of truly being mobile first because, in fact, it's not available on other platforms.
Right.
And that's putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
But some folks, they write things in the brief and they don't really follow through on it, certainly from an investment standpoint. But when you do that, you can create some pretty breakthrough stuff.
Sure.
like Empire.
Valeriya, what about you? VR must be a big thing for you.
Yes, the same as for us. As a game developer company, we just have no choice. We need to use the technologies on the first stage. We have VR movies. For example, it gives our players the opportunity to pretend like they're sitting in the tank cabin and looking around, or you can go with the VR through all the ship, or for example, machinery department where you can navigate when you are in museums. Also, we use augmented reality. We make a different application when you can, for example, make a shot of some place that is well known and put a ship inside it. So we use it like for fun, for entertainment, and for give the opportunity to share the word about us.
Thank you. And David, what about you? How do you see technology shaping the world you're in, and particularly, I guess, looking ahead to your work as a producer now? You obviously got to get your head around what all this means in terms of opportunities.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity, I would say, in the storytelling in general. I think if you're from a brand world, I think that the CMO and really your CTO should really be best friends. Those two, it's really technology and marketing is so closely tied together now. But we did some VR stuff again as experiential brand that's easy to see what we would do. So we did teleporters. In some Marriott hotels, you can actually get a headset and transport yourself also to different locations.
Yes.
So again, inspiring people to travel. We did some stuff with GoPro at our beach properties in Caribbean, Latin America. And then I think from a social media thing, one of the coolest technologies that we've have used and implemented into our real-time social media command centers around the world is a technology called Hyper, which is geofencing locations. So in Marriott's case, would geofence all 6,700 hotels.
Wow.
It captures all conversations that take place on social media, on Instagram and Twitter, public conversations. And then it's a whole system platform that alerts you.
Yes.
So in Marriott's case, it would identify what people were doing at property, saying, hey, having a great time at the pool, enjoying the wedding, whatever it may be, and they may not tag us, so normally we wouldn't know.
Right.
But because of this technology, we're able to capture that and then make a decision on what do we want to do.
Wow.
So we would do upgrades, we would send champagne to the pool. So next time you're at a Marriott hotel, try it.
Wow.
Say, hanging by the pool, could use a good bottle, a good drink, and see if they reply. But the response rate has been 82% or higher when we've actually engaged with consumers on that platform.
Wow.
And and that's another piece of content, right? Even though it's social, it's another piece of content that's being developed.
This is really bringing the digital and the real together. Yeah. Just, I'm talking about your time at Marriott. Where did you sit as content creators in the sort of marketing structure of the business? Were you reporting to the CMO, or did you sit to one side of that marketing infrastructure?
So our approach when I launched it 3 years ago was to have a centralized content studio.
Yeah.
That all the sort of content marketing, anything that was story driven that didn't fit in traditional marketing, went through the content studio both ways. So that meant we were developing ideas, taking them to the brands. The brands would say, hey, maybe we want to do a short film, or we want to do something, what do you think? We would then take that and help develop the idea.
Right.
Then we would actually go, so once we passed that stage, then we would go find the right creative partners to actually execute. So a lot of people I think thought we built some massive studio with thousands of employees and lights and cameras. There's nothing like that exists. We did hire people from media and storytelling and journalists, those types, to develop the strategy and kind of bring the creative idea we wanted to do together to a place where we felt comfortable. But then it was going to the creative community and building those partnerships to have the storytellers do it the right way.
Got it. And Lou, you're nodding there. You're in a similar position, aren't you, at PepsiCo? Has it been hard to get acceptance from your senior colleagues? I mean, you know, in terms of the value you can bring to their marketing campaigns?
Not at all. Again, our company leans in to this type of stuff. That hasn't been the challenge. What is always the challenge, there are a number of different ways to get to the end goal.
Yeah.
Very much agree with some things that David said, that we were faced with some choices to how do you staff the studio, for example.
Yes.
You bring 100 people in immediately. We kind of summarize our role really as the bridge between our brands and partners, and increasingly even partners of PepsiCo, retail, restaurant partners want to use our capabilities as well, which is great. But brands and partners, and we're the bridge to the creative community.
Yes.
So for whatever brand needs come through the door, and as we work with the brands, we realize what stories they want to tell, and we help them refine, and in some cases define those stories. Then we'll go to the right storyteller for that brief, for that specific story. And so if you want to tell real life stories, you want a documentary filmmaker. So somebody like David Darg, who worked on some of the Gatorade films.
Yeah.
And when you do that, the right kind of storytellers matched to the right brief, you get incredible results. Like that film was just accepted into the Tribeca Film Festival.
Which is amazing, yeah.
You know, we don't set out saying, yeah, that's what we're going to do, but you know, that's not, the brands weren't thinking that way, but certainly David Darg was.
Yeah.
Right. So matching, it's really how it's done is the trick.
And I guess obviously getting results. I mean, I think, David, you mentioned that the film French Kiss. Didn't that generate something like $500,000 worth of additional revenue? Just the film
for that hotel. And that's where I think if you set this up right, you have that opportunity to really take marketing from a cost center actually into a revenue center.
Yeah.
And that's what I was alluding to as a media company, because it doesn't work with all types of content.
Yeah.
We did all types of short form and just stuff on YouTube, but with that stuff that's really story driven, that provides that value to the distributors, we were able to showcase, wait a minute, now we're making money, and now that will go back into marketing.
Yeah.
But if you look at all of your distribution channels and again, tell the story in a right way, where it's ultimately entertaining and the brand's just there for the ride and the vehicle, I think you can actually shift and bring money back in.
Valeriya, does everyone at Wargaming get why you do the films that you make, the documentaries? Is it seen as important, or have you had to really argue the case for doing them?
So for our filming, like my, I'd like to talk about our filming process. We are always working with very close connection with the players, and if they are interested in some special ship, they want to know more, we know about it. And all our video production is inside the project team. So we never use something like separate. We are totally included in one cycle. So we can produce the documentary that they like or want from us.
Got it. Okay. We're nearly out of time. I can't believe the time has flown. Certainly for us up here. It might not be for you down there, obviously. But I just wanted to look ahead a bit, really. I mean, how optimistic are you about the future of brand content as being absolutely integral to marketing campaigns, being accepted by consumers as just a natural part of the kind of media ecosystem? Lou is smiling, so I'm guessing the answer is probably yes.
Well, I'd be out of a job. If
I did think about that.
I'm obviously bullish. I mean, we're all out here in this beautiful place talking about these great stories that we get to tell. From a brand standpoint, though, having worked 13 years at this company, working on the brand side for a lot of it, this is just a different way of telling the stories, and ultimately, this is a great time because some of the most creative storytellers on the planet are very happy to work with brands.
Yeah.
There is no stigma attached to it, but how you work with them is the key to success. And right now we're finding if we just put those unbelievable storytellers in the same room as the brand decision makers, and there's not all these layers in between.
Yeah.
We're just getting beautiful results, and the stories are better. So the future of branded content is really limitless if done the right way. And the brands are happy, the creative team is happy, and ultimately the business moves in the right direction. So I'm pretty bullish on.
But it needs collaboration. I think we were chatting earlier, and
it's
no
how
ego.
You collaborate. That's exactly right.
Which is hard in this industry, I know.
The brand team cannot feel like they understand this is the way to direct something.
Yeah.
Right. So everybody needs to come together to the table without ego, recognizing there are certain things you don't know. But when you do that, the results can be beautiful.
David, you're nodding there. You optimistic?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's changing really is the model on how content's all being produced, right? So people would say mobile first or TV's dead. Whatever. I don't believe in any of that. I think that it's great content will get watched. You do need to market it. That's one of the biggest mistakes brands make, is they make something and they spend no money marketing it.
Yeah.
Right? But again, it's that idea that if you can bring a brand, you can bring a production company, you can bring a producer together to create a story. What I think is new is that brands are now realizing that by investing in those projects, they can actually be a part of it and own IP and actually start to build a media business versus just renting an audience.
Yeah.
Right? Because previously it'd be like, hey, I'm a producer, I'd go to the brand, I'm going to put your brand in my show, give me the money, thank you, and go home. Now the brands, I think the right ones, and content studios are now getting a little smart and saying, wait a minute here. Right? The model's changed, and there's an opportunity for us to all have a seat at the table. And in many cases, for some TV stuff, brands are fully financing these TV shows.
Yeah.
But I think you can, in a funny way, we're kind of going full circle, right? Back to soap operas and P&G.
Yeah.
That's
the
really where we
1930s,
started with
right?
branded content, right? They created it, sponsored it, and owned it.
I think that's a great note to end on, really. It's part of a history. Sorry we're out of time. Thank you so much for listening, but above all, thank you to our excellent panel this afternoon. Let's show our appreciation in the normal way. Thank you.